We're here at the site of Philippi, and JR and I are doing a couple of different videos about the intersection of history that Paul was walking into when he came to Philippi. One of those roads of history is Paul was walking into a very Roman city. We've just hiked halfway up the Acropolis here. At least I hope it's halfway, but it's probably not. But we've just come from the site of Philippi, walking around down there, and one of the hills that you probably can't see right now, but I'll point it out to you. There's a little hill there. We'll get a better video and overlay it so you can see it. But it's the site of where Mark Antony watched the Battle of Philippi take place. And so in about, I think, 42 BC, Antony and Octavian were trying to get revenge on Brutus and Cassius for the murder of Julius Caesar. And so Brutus and Cassius were on the run. Brutus and Cassius had 20,000 troops. You can see the plain. This was a huge, just flat plain, and Brutus and Cassius had troops over here. Antony and Octavian had troops on that side, but far fewer troops. I think in the museum it said about 13,000. And Mark Antony stood on that hill and watched the battle take place. Actually a series of battles, but the short story is, fascinating history about the battle. The short story is that Antony and Octavian prevailed. Cassius ended up committing suicide in the city of Philippi because he thought the battle was lost, even though it wasn't. And Brutus ended up committing suicide when he realized that the battle truly was lost. And that's the Battle of Philippi. Now, all that takes place probably less than 100 years when Paul walks into the city. One of the results of these battles is that Octavian and Antony settle about 5,000 Roman troops here. So good job, fellas, we won. I'm going to retire a certain amount of you who have gotten a certain amount of seniority under your belt. And so what he does is he settles 5,000 Roman troops here in Philippi, gives them Roman citizenship, gives them land, farmland. You can see all that. That was probably owned by at one time by Roman troops. And they inhabit Philippi. Philippi becomes a Roman colony. And so when Paul walks into this city, everything about this city is Rome, right? This was a little Rome. This was a Roman colony inhabited by Roman troops. By the time Paul comes in, yeah, it's possible, maybe even some really old soldiers were there, but certainly kids, grandkids, they had Roman citizenship. Everything about this city was Roman. Now, there are other aspects of the city as well we're going to talk about in another video, but one of the key things that defines the Romanness of Philippi is this Battle of Philippi that takes place right behind me in 42 BC. And it starts to affect a lot of the ways you read Philippians because Paul, I think, unmistakably uses words that would resonate with a soldier. And we'll talk about some of that later. That's what I'll kind of talk about in a book I'm working on. So, but that's the Romanization of Philippi. This is a great chance to talk about it.